Now you see how brand new that is there. It's actually, I mean, it looks brand spanking new, and yet you've got this on top. Now some will say, well, you know, this was built later, it's inferior, but I don't think that. I mean, even that pillar looks brand new there, and then obviously this was more buried in silt, sand for some time, might have been even excavated at some point. But just look how brand new that is there compared to this stuff here. This is Bulgaria. This entire thing was a structure, a mega structure made out of concrete that's been completely pulverised and turned into what you see now. And how I know that is the reason why this floor here is the same thickness all the way across. Right, but can you see how there's these holes here, kind of shaped like a bath? Yes, they're shaped like a bath. That one would have been, but it's since got knocked through or fell through. There's actually one hidden there as well as this, mineralized over this, yeah, as it was turning to rock. You know, it dribbled down and turned and hardened over it. If there's any builders out there, engineers that have worked on bridges, you know, that expand over large areas, this, you see this shape here, shaped like a bath, is exactly, and I'm talking about exactly, how they construct bridges today over, you know, long expanses. And they're actually joined together. I'm not sure if it's there or there. You would think it would be there, but I think it's actually where the hole is actually. But anyway, you know, they're like that, so they can be joined together and they're slightly flexible, yeah. So this was something enormous that's since corroded away, and this has just, you know, it's just turned to this over time. It must have been some type of mega structure for it to be built in that way. Huge, almost well, it was, you know, a skyscraper type building, because even when the Twin Towers fell down, there wasn't as much rubble as this, and most of it will still be buried. And now I know that is because that's what it looks like. This is a close-up on a small area, and it's turned into limestone. You can see, yeah, it was a huge mega structure. This is in same place, and this is metal framing here, like on the last video I showed you, back engineering the ancient world. It's something similar to that. And if you're doubting that it is, can you see where as this collapsed, this area has actually bent, yeah, and it has bent. They're not urinals like mainstream archaeology would, you know, would have you believe. You can see where it's actually been pushed up in areas. That is different to this and different to that, because it's been pushed down and it's bent it up. And the reason why it's green is because it was metal and it's mineralized, yeah, and it's turning to stone. The rest of it is in there. These images again are on my Google page, go check them. They also like doing things like this, something like this. You know, show any engineer this stuff and they'll tell you exactly what they're looking at. But they do like putting baskets in places like this, you know, and rags, someone's underpants, you know, to make you think that people in loincloths and feathers in their hair and that could build something like this, yeah. But it's since turned to limestone, like this. This was all concrete. It was some type of stadium, you know, like a huge concrete stadium that's since collapsed and it turns into limestone. None of this was carved, was it? This stuff, even these pillars here, yeah, you know, because people think that these pillars were somehow machined, you know, cut, dragged around the world, and there wasn't. When you go look at this image, you will see that this is actually some type of lacquer, something over this, which is like a soft sandstone or something else. It's like built up, mud even, right? You will see it's a covering. Every single one is slightly different. like this, that is actually painting. This is not carved decoration, it is painting. But these, people think that these, you know, are huge blocks that's being carved, and you wouldn't do that, right? Because the, look, as time went on, if her arm fell away, you would have to replace the entire block. So you wouldn't do that, would you? They are plates, really thin tiled plates that can be replaced. This is Leptis Magna, and just look how brand new that thing is there. How old do you think that is? And you see all these little holes here. This is not rebar, this. I can tell the difference, you know, when I tell you some of this stuff's rebar and framework. This isn't. This stuff is something softer. This is not hard concrete, and what that looks like to me, it looks like straw. It looks like that this is actually mud rock, some type of mud rock, and this is some type of binding. You know, they've binded it together with straw. You can see all these holes here, and that's why it looks like that. So, you know, it's like a mixture of building products, really. Or was this area replaced? And it must have been, because I mean that's brand new, isn't it? So obviously this was done God knows when, and the rest of it was done with mud rock, because I just showed you what it was binded with, and it was binded with hay or straw. This thing here, I've got nothing to say about it. I just found it really interesting. It looks like some of the stuff I've shown you in Belbeck. But the water have lifted this up in one piece. I can tell you now, this was a plasterer that's come and plastered an entire wall, but it's just fallen away in one piece. Okay, these are them plates, look. Yeah, and they put them on. You know, if you get any damage, you're not going to you're not going to remove the entire wall, are you? You're going to remove this plate and stick it to the wall. But what is under this? And you see how smooth this is under here, and you've got this over the top of it, like these even. So it's no different to the stuff that you see in Egypt. Yeah. Even this lion that they will tell you was carved out of the rock, it wasn't. And how I know it wasn't is because it's obviously some type of frame. The legs, well, you know, there will have been something similar to the legs and the body, and maybe a little stick for a head, and then the concreted around it, plastered concrete, some sort of substance, because the legs, the framework is underneath this. As look, you can see where the leg is cracked away there, revealing what's inside it. You can't get more obvious than that, can it? I don't think any of these were carved from rock. I think all this stuff was soft and layered piece by piece. I'm talking about, you know, maybe an entire wig. The hair was put on in one piece, yeah. Then the beard was put on, and it hardens. And how I know that is because you wouldn't be carving this and risk sticking your tool down that hole there, yeah, to be shaping that, to risk knocking that piece off and ruining the entire project. Absolutely nowhere. And how I know that to be true is from images like this. That just looks like some type of plaster. This thing here, you can see that line there. The hair might have even been replaced, like I've shown you a few times with other stuff. But when you come and look at the images, look at that beard, and if that's not clear enough for you that's just watching this video, why do you think these holes that you get in all these statues are there in the first place? It obviously looks like concrete. I suppose all I'm showing you in this, because it's on the next image, is can you see that that line there, that partition line, it obviously looks like something's been joined up to it. This is indeed concrete, because you know that I struggle in determining what's mud rock built with mud, clay, shoved into a wooden superstructure, which then hardens into mud rock. But this indeed does look like it might have been concrete built with metal and rebar. Okay, this is every single image here that I'm going to show you through the entire video, because there's 2 sections to it, is all from what they call the Temple of Aphrodite. You can see that this is indeed concrete, and this is extremely modern. We build with this technique today, even with metal. You know, you will stick a metal girder inside there and it will hold it steady. You would probably, I mean, I'm not 100% sure, I'm just giving you ideas here on what I think. This could have been dug out, a square hole could have been dug out of the ground as they were constructing the foundations, and then poured a load of concrete into it. Yeah, cement concrete. And as that was hardening, then they shoved a metal beam down there. You get me? They might have had something that went round here, and as they shoved the metal girder inside, it shoved this part up and then hardened. But it keeps it straight. But you can see how modern all this stuff is. This is mud rock that's hardened inside here. Basically, you know what I'm getting at. None of this was rock carved. There's no rock carving here. This is limestone and sandstone that's changed during the flood in the ways that I've explained to you, which is what I always try to do. I always try to find you the biggest and best images from all these sites. But when you look at something like this, they would definitely present that all this is rock carved. None of it is rock carved. Even this, there's 3 images here, one after the other, of the exact same area, and you see these lines here. It's the exact same thing that I've presented to you in the dolmen videos, which I've said before is actually my best work, because it's completely paradigm changing. These lines here is where you have, it's, you know how you, if you were to get a plasterer into your house and you wanted a partition wall, you know, you wanted to build a separate room, they would build it with wooden lats, and then plaster it, right? And that's what those markings are. They have not just come across this site and then carved 3-inch thick pieces of rock to then just pile up on each other, right? You see those lines? It's exactly the same way as we would build a partition wall today, and it's just turned it into mud rock. And just because you get these lines here like that, they would say that that's machining. Well, the megalithic community would, and it's not. It's just where you it's like a tool. You know, you get a tool and you smear it onto the wall, and it just leaves these markings on it. That's all that is. Like I say, this is the same area, it's just the backside, and you can see how this is just built like a partition wall. When you look at these here, if you look inside here, it is literally sand. So I don't completely know what I'm looking at here. Like if this was some type of tubing, like a plaster type tubing, you know, but you would never build like this, would you? All this is rubble, and they just come across and they pile it up, and then they cement it into place. You can see all this is cement and concrete, and they've been making it look this way, but none of it was built like this. I've just shown you it was built exactly the same way that you build a modern partition wall. Okay, even this area here, this is like the image that I showed you earlier, and can you see these lines here? Again, it's how you build a partition wall, and then you shove or pour concrete into it. and it turns into a rock. You can see it down there even, and these areas here, you wouldn't be coming and then dropping a huge block like this on top of rubble. You wouldn't build a wall like this with rubble, little pieces of rubble, to then drop something as huge as this on top, because if you did, it would just force all this outwards, sideways. The reason why these are all little blocks around the same size is because this was rebar. Yeah, it was concrete and rebar, and as the rebar erodes away, you get these little blocks around the same size, and then this area was built in the way I've just been talking about. You can see it here, you know, when you go have a look at this image. But when you see this, which is more or less the same site, they will present this as being some type of doorway and archway. And I've studied this image more than any other image that I'm going to show you now, and this to me looks like it could have actually been something like a aqueduct. And the reason why I say that, and that's where the water may have indeed ran down and this has been knocked out, and why I can say that is because, can you see how that arch is like that? Well, there's actually an arch there and here, yeah? Well, if you follow the lines of these arches, they would have ran right into the centre of that. So this can't have been a doorway. It was some type of inner superstructure for the point of whatever this was, which must have been something like an aqueduct. No matter, even if this stops here and down here, it's just been destroyed, and then they've built, later peoples have, carried on building with the rubble from this thing. Okay. These are a few artifacts that I've found that seem very interesting to me. This is about the size of a car wheel, right? So it's not small, and it looks like some type of modern hose pipe, yeah? Piping will have run into this hole and there, and you could probably turn something like you do today, like a tap, and you could have it running through that way or that way, something that will divert it, and it's just an imprint of what it got buried in, which was clay and mud. I've shown you these before. I mean, just look at that. That's the end of another video, ladies and gentlemen. So if anybody wants to donate to the channel, helping this move forward, there will be a link pinned comment.